Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs, or you can find us on Spotify or wherever else you grow yourself through podcasts. And if you're hungry and don't want to leave your couch or don't want to leave your office, I recommend opening up the DoorDash app and ordering from any of the awesome food entrepreneurs that have been on our show. So that being said, I have a very awesome guest with us. I love his concept. From the Los Angeles greater area, Linwood, California specifically, I have Mota with Las Ahogadas. How are you doing today? Did I get that right?
That's right. Yeah, that's perfect.
Dang, we got it. I love it.
Happy to be here. Excited to share some of the stuff that we've gone through in opening the business, and yeah, I'm just ready to get started. Excited.
So tell us, Abe, and everyone in the audience, thank you guys for listening in. I know our downloads are going through the roof daily. I mean, I think we're over 10x of what we used to do per day 2 to 3 weeks ago. So we're really starting to get momentum. We're in over 133 countries across the globe on a regular basis. That's not just the countries we've touched. These are the ones that we're getting consistent downloads out of, and through all of our syndications and everything. So I appreciate all of you guys for listening in and sharing and the word of mouth and really supporting these entrepreneurs and giving awesome 5-star reviews on their episodes and writing comments on their episodes and writing comments on all the syndications to help promote the podcast. Because obviously if you're learning something and there's a value and these entrepreneurs are benefiting your lives, or you're a fan of their restaurants or their food products or whatever it is, or their packaged goods, whatever they're doing direct to consumer, depending on their business, obviously it's awesome when you write good reviews and you help them out and you help their episode get out there. So again, the point of the podcast is to try to help entrepreneurs out there. You're not alone. There's a lot of us out there, and the food entrepreneurs in the world are the largest number of individuals. If we all formed a party across the whole globe, we could change world politics. That's just how powerful we are. So that being said, Abe, tell me your story. Let's talk about, share it with the audience. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And what led you into being a food entrepreneur?
Okay, yeah. So, I've actually been, I'm 34 years old and I've been all over the place. So originally I grew up in, it's like a northern central California, close to like San Jose, Silicon Valley kind of. And I was there up until maybe like 14 years old. And then I was about 7 or 8 years old when my dad started. He got his first food truck in the area. He had the food truck for, I want to say maybe like 7 years. And then he wanted to upgrade, and we moved out to Phoenix, Arizona. And in Phoenix, Arizona, he opened up the first actual restaurant. I was about 13, 14 at the time, and that's really when I started to get involved. But I never saw myself as like trying to get into the food industry. I was always a sports guy, so I wanted to do something along the lines of sports. But as I started to grow up and as I started to get more and more involved, it was just kind of like a natural process where I kind of slipped into the family business. So starting off when I helped him at first, obviously I was about 14, 15 years old, so I was always front of the house, taking the orders out, stuff like that. Nothing too involved. And as I say, as I started getting older, I started appreciating the back of the house more. As far as cooking and prepping and getting everything ready. So as I started growing up, I got involved in that. And then eventually I was about 22 at the time. And I actually decided to go, I studied culinary arts here in Los Angeles. And that's when I made the full on dive and went all in, as they say. And so yeah, that's kind of how it started. So it was a food truck first, then he opened the restaurant, and I helped out there, and that's what led to this. When I first here in Linwood, um, so it was kind of a long process to get here. From Phoenix, Arizona, we moved out here to LA, and he opened up a restaurant in LA. And this one here in Linwood was his second one, but he didn't have the manpower to manage it, so I took over. And initially, it was just okay. Take over, work it. It wasn't actually mine. I would still report back to him, and he was the owner. But it got to a point where he just said, you know what, just continue with that, and that's yours. You've worked enough to the point where you can have not have, but be in charge of that. And that was under a previous name, and I've been here for the better part of 9 years. I want to say 9 years, and recently, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I made a name change and a concept change, um, because I felt kind of stuck in what he had been doing, and he was kind of I pitched some ideas to him about trying to um, maybe modernize a little bit more, or just try newer stuff, and he wasn't really open to it. So I went ahead and did a name change and concept change, and that's kind of what we're in the middle of right now. We're super excited. We have a lot of new stuff coming out. Um, it's exciting for me because I'm finally opening up my brain and my concepts to newer ideas and stuff like that I'm excited to try out and have people try and see what they think.
It's interesting. I mean, my background is kind of similar, not exactly, but especially with my father in particular. But before I get into that, I want to talk about this. Like, let's go back to your father running a food truck. Did you spend time in the food truck, or were you not? You mentioned getting involved in the business in Phoenix. Like, how much experience did you get? What were you learning? Like, what did you learn from those businesses at the time that you value now, because you were so young and so influenced by food back then?
I did at the time. Okay, so where we were in California, the biggest industry was agriculture. So what he did is, he would go to the fields, like strawberry, lettuce fields, and he would bring out the truck for the workers' lunch. So during the summer, obviously I went to school back then, so during the school year I wasn't able to help. But during the summer I would always ride along, and I would see kind of firsthand how again, the preparation, because I remember thinking back, lunch was about 12:30, 1, depending on which one we went to. It was the lunch, but preparation started even the night before. Going to the wholesale store to get the drinks. We would get there early to the commissary to load up the truck, and a lot of times I helped out with that, just like loading in the sodas. There's a lot of like behind the scenes preparation that goes into, like, when you go eat, when you go to especially like a food truck. I mean, you see the food truck and you see the people cooking, but I mean, there's hours and hours of preparation that go into that one dish, or that one order that you're making. It's not just, okay, I want to eat this, and oh, they haven't. I mean, there's a whole process to having it ready and having it there. So that's kind of one of the first things that I took away from seeing how they worked, and just having the what do you call it? Just being outgoing with the customers. Not. I mean, like I said, I was about 8 at the time, and having conversations with the customers, not being shy, or kind of shying away from them, because at the end of the day, when you first begin, or your first couple times, it's people that you don't know, so you have to have that kind of personality to be willing to talk to them, sometimes explain the food to them, and having the knowledge to do all of that as well.
I love this because I think it's important because when we grow up in family businesses or we grow up particularly in food or the entrepreneurial family that you experience, it unintentionally compounds this entrepreneurial knowledge and business skills and I don't know, family things that you can benefit from, where if I was just an entrepreneur going in the space and I didn't have parents in food or as entrepreneurs or as business people, it's a lot harder because we catch a lot. And I believe that we aren't actually taught, we catch things. If it's a subject, if it's a good teacher, if it's taught well or it's contagious, we catch it. And in families that have food businesses or restaurants or parents are in businesses and allow their kids to spend a regular amount of time in those businesses or even just being a fly on the wall in those businesses, the compounding effect is huge. And I agree with you. How do you deal with customers? How do you do the prep work? How do you deal with the sodas? How do you manage inventory? Like all that stuff matters significantly, and being able to see it, you catch it. It doesn't even necessarily need to always be taught to you. You see your parents like leading by example and it's caught. Yeah. And so, just to go with the sports analogy, I guess that fits right in there. Because I, too, soccer was my thing. Like, I did soccer. It's all I did. I traveled. I played on 3 teams and whatever. But I was always on the family farm. And then my dad was in the food business in Marriott with Roy Rogers and Bob's Big Boys and other Marriott things. And then when Marriott decided to go into hotels, he was part of a group that went in, bought out a department, and they did food on airplanes in over 123 kitchens around the world, including Russia and Australia, even behind the Iron Curtain back in the day. So cool stuff like that. But I caught it. I was around the business all the time. Because I played soccer, I ended up at his office all the time catching the knowledge. On the farm, I was heavily influenced by my mom, who was an entrepreneur, and horses and breeding and lessons and showing and raising and boarding and just you name it, traveling. And so it's just really interesting because I agree with the sports thing. Soccer was my thing until all of a sudden I realized that even though my dad had played soccer growing up, I didn't catch it from him. I didn't catch the same thing. And while I was really good at it and a good work ethic, I was really good at business and really good with food. And that's the direction I went at 18 years old as well, even though I played soccer after that quite a bit and tried in college and all that. But the reality is I was already in a food business that I created with my father and business partners at 18 years old, working out of the family's basement. And next thing you know, I'm in this business. I'm trying to go to school. I'm coming home for breaks. I'm coming home any chance I could get. I used to use an excuse. There was a girl I was seeing at the time. But really what I was doing is I was trying to get home. I'd spend some time with her, and then I'd be involved in the business, because even though I could work remotely at school, which was only an hour away, I wanted more and more and more and more and learn as much as I could. So I think that's what we're talking about here. So let's go back to the restaurant. When your dad opened the restaurant and went to Phoenix and you got involved with the customer service in the front of the house, you weren't actually cooking in the back per se. Did you eventually start cooking in the restaurant, or was it that, oh man, I don't get to do this, I don't have the skill, I'm going to culinary school? Because I just want to understand how you made the decision to go to culinary school, and was it because of the restaurant or the lack of being in the back of the house?
It wasn't. So okay, I was in the front of the house. I was always around them cooking and stuff, but I never had the urge or the curiosity to be like, oh, okay, what are they cooking? It was always like, for me, it was like, okay, what can I help you with? Where do you need help? And that's kind of where I slid in. And my dad has always cooked his whole life, so he always needed help in the front of the house. So that's kind of how that position was given to me, or how I ended up there. As I started growing up, and it's funny because when we would have family gatherings, like barbecues, or again sports, when we would win Super Bowl parties, or I'm a big NBA fan, or NBA playoff games would come around, there would always be cooking involved. and that's really where it began, because sometimes I like I don't want to say I didn't pay attention to the game, but I was watching the game, but I was at the same time I was worried about the food. I was trying to see how they were making it. I was trying to see what went into it. The knife skills really caught my attention. But again, this was all at home, not at the business. I guess it was just because of how busy we were, and I never really like took the time to analyze or go to the back of the house back then to see what they were doing. But when we got home and when we would cook, it was always it was always I don't know how to say it, but it always caught my attention. It always caught my attention. And then as it started as I started paying attention and started to try it out, I started watching like food TV shows, and that really took it to the next level. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where it was when I first started cooking. It was all my dad's recipes. It was okay. So he kind of took me in. He said, okay, this is what we do. These are dishes. Um this is how we do it, and everything he learned was from my grandma. So it was like a passing on of recipes and stuff like that. Um, but again, I always like I was cooking. I felt like I was cooking his dishes all the time, you know. So as I finally said, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna fully like jump in. I wanted to develop skills, and I had ideas of my own, but I didn't know how to execute those ideas, and I didn't want to like step outside of the business that we had already, and try to maybe like jump onto another restaurant and try to learn from another chef. So I decided that school was the best option, and it really helped. It really helped. It opened my eyes to different types of cooking. It opened my eyes to different types of food that I wouldn't have tried otherwise. Um, Techniques, making different types of sauces. I mean, growing up, it was just like I say, it was like my grandma's sauces. She passed them on to my dad. My dad passed them on to me, and that's kind of what we always cooked. But there was never like an idea to innovate or try different stuff. So that's kind of where my desire to learn and go to school comes in, is to try new things, to try to innovate, to try to make newer dishes.
I love it. Let's talk about the transition in the restaurant in California. Like your dad opens a second one in Los Angeles. You get your culinary arts degree. You start to run that about 9 years ago, which is perfect timing.
So the crazy thing is, from Arizona, the business did really well. We were doing super good, and then at the time there was obviously the restaurant there was in a highly Hispanic population. Our food, and this is probably something I should have said since the beginning. Our food is based out of Guadalajara, which is where we're from. So it's Guadalajara style food. All of our dishes are traditional dishes in the city of Guadalajara, and so that's kind of the original concept of our restaurant was that. Like I said, today it's still based on that, but I'm trying newer stuff. But that's how it started, and we were in a highly Hispanic populated area. And at the time, if anybody's familiar with the Arizona politics, this was about 2014, I want to say. There was a Sheriff Joe Arpaio who was the sheriff in the county that we were in, which is Maricopa County. He started doing passing some anti-immigration laws, and it was amazing, because it was maybe in a matter of a month or 6 weeks, business dropped maybe 70-80%, because a lot of the population fled. They just took off. They just left. Yeah, they took off. So we figured at the time, we said, okay, you know what, the way this is going, we're not gonna make it. So we have to see what, and that's another one of the struggles that you face as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, is things change and you have to change. If you don't change, you're done. So that's when and that's how we ended up in LA. So that happens, business drops. It got to the point where we weren't making ends meet, and we made the switch, and we decided to come out to Los Angeles, and that's what landed us here in LA.
It's just crazy to me because I think about the amount of taxes that were lost by doing a policy like that, and the amount of workers that were so needed in the food service businesses as well, just from immigration. It doesn't include all the other jobs that are needed because of immigration in America. But it's just crazy. We don't realize the damage we do by being so reactionary in this country in particular. We get so reactionary. We think we're going to solve the problem, and then we make things worse, actually, for everyone and the counties we're trying to protect. I'm pretty sure we should have immigration in those counties. I don't care what's going on because of the revenue and the taxes that are being paid, even if it's not directly, if it's an illegal immigrant. I get it, but they are supporting businesses. They are spending money, and they're supporting everything that's going on, particularly your schools and your taxation system. So just, grain of salt. I always find there's a cloudy thing in there. But I just want to anchor this. It's Guadalajara, the city in Mexico, correct, that we're talking about. So, I mean, you're living the Mexican-American dream at this point. You're forming a business. You're successful. Then all of a sudden, this is what we just talked about in my last episode, and I just did a Centurion Leadership Italian show episode on this, which by the time this releases will be a few weeks ago. But it's about how all of a sudden we're successful and all of a sudden people start tearing us down. And sometimes it's unintentional, but usually it isn't. It's like there's a fear that's of success or a fear of a group or a fear of whatever that leads to this. And, tall poppies or whatever, and there's a group, okay, I'm threatened by them, and instead of like helping them get better, it's just cut them all down. Okay, well, that's not going to help. And I just want to anchor that, and I want to anchor the Mexican-American dream here because I think it's so important that there's so many blah, blah, blah country American dream. Italian American dream is my family, okay? And, yours is Mexican American dream. But a majority of the people in food bring their food and their customs into America and create restaurants and businesses and pay taxes and create jobs and have dreams big enough that it fits a lot of other people's dreams in it, vendors, employees, customers. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. Like sometimes other groups that are around the Mexican-American or the Italian-American or the Moroccan-American dream go to those restaurants or to their restaurants because they are part of a community. So it gives them a place to feel at home and safe because food is a safe haven. People are very comfortable around food and the table, and it is breaking bread. So for the audience, I just really want to anchor that. Let's talk about the food you guys originally served in the restaurant and in the food truck that your father did, and what were the traditional recipes that your family had. We don't need to talk about all of them. We can talk about the food in general, but what were some of the most popular things? This is before you transitioned the menu, but what were some of the popular things and staples that you saw being successful in this type of restaurant, which is the Guadalajaran food from Mexico?
So when he first started in the taco truck, the audience that he had, or the customer base that he had, was super different from what we have now. So the concept in the food truck wasn't the Guadalajara based. It was just your traditional Mexican food, which his main or his most popular dishes were just burritos, and the tacos. It was just asada, pastor, which are the different kinds of meats. But like I say, the customer base or his clients that he had then was different, and he couldn't. It wasn't. How can I say? I mean, they were there already. He was catering to a group of people that were there, and they were going to be his customers because he provided the lunch. It wasn't. Like now that we have the restaurant, it's a concept that we designed and that we kind of put out for people to see, and then people receive that message and decide to come to us. Back then it wasn't like that. There was a group of people, they needed to eat, and they kind of the manager in charge kind of told us what they wanted, and we made it. So or my parents made it. So back then it wasn't there wasn't really like recipes going into it and stuff. It was just putting the food together. When we opened up the Guadalajara concept, that's really when we start incorporating family recipes to the menu. And if anybody's familiar with Guadalajara, they're gonna know the torta ahogada is the most traditional dish in the city. If you go to Guadalajara, every pretty much every corner of the city has a stand that sells tortas ahogadas. For those of you that don't know it, it's super. I'm going to explain it. And you're going to say, "Oh, wow, that's super simple," but at the same time, it's super complex because the ingredients that go into it have to be right in order for you to get it right. I know it sounds kind of cheesy to say it that way, but I mean it is that way. So it's a sourdough roll, but in Guadalajara, because of the geographic location of the city, the sourness and the flavor that the sourdough gets because of the starter is really I want to say you can't find it nowhere else. It's kind of like the San Francisco sourdough. Everybody knows San Francisco sourdough is amazing because it's in San Francisco. So that's kind of the same concept for the sourdough roll that we use for the torta ahogada. So it's a sourdough roll. We smear it with refried beans. We fill it with pork carnitas, and then it's dipped into a tomato sauce, and then it's topped with the spicy sauce, depending on how spicy you want it. And then it comes accompanied with a side of pickled red onions and a couple pieces of lime that you squeeze onto it. Like I say, it's super simple, but once you have it, it's just the rigidness of the bread with the mushiness of the carnitas. It all just comes together, and it's for me, it's amazing. It's a dish that I grew up eating. It's a celebratory dish in the city of Guadalajara. Growing up, when it was somebody's birthday, it was always, oh, what are we gonna make? Oh, tortas ahogadas. So that's kind of that's our main. Even in the name, it's las ahogadas. So that's our main dish.
I love this. So when you were talk to me a little bit about the relationship with your father. When I know he built something, right? He built these restaurants and he built these menus and their family traditions. And you're like, okay, I think we need to change the concept. I think we need to build a concept around this particular food, and we need to rename it. Talk to me about, because you mentioned like you butted heads, and from my own experience, like believe me, my father did things and it had to be his way or the highway, and even if I had a faster way of doing things or more efficient or more profitable, it did not matter.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't his idea. So, let's talk about that. The other thing I want to just emphasize on what you're talking about, these tortas, the sandwiches, is that they've become so popular. Even in the United States, Del Taco, I believe, has added 3 or 4 of their versions of such a sandwich, and it's not obviously the same. It's a fast food version, but it's obviously something that's spilling into America, this type of Guadalajara Mexican food, where a fast food chain that's also tied to Sonic, interestingly. They're owned by the same company. But either way, I just think that, the Del Taco model is very interesting, and interestingly, both root from Glenn Bell, who is Taco Bell, who Bell actually owned a burger place at first, then discovered that tacos and the Mexican Americans that were coming into the United States wanted tacos, and Americans would have an appetite for it too. And based on businesses and things he helped do, he helped start Del Taco in Yermo, California. Yermo, I think it's pronounced. I can't pronounce it. In 1964, even before he created Taco Bell, I believe, because he was trying to get taco concepts. So this has been going on since the 1960s, where we've seen just Mexican-American food or Mexican food coming into the United States, or now the whole world. Taco Bell, Del Taco, Chipotle, all of these places are making it so it's a world cuisine. So I just want to anchor that, because what you're doing, I think, is spot on. And the trend is there, whether most realize it or not, that your type of concept is going to be big, because the sourdough, the Mexican spices, the flavors of cooking from Guadalajara that you're embracing and engulfing in your food and infusing, I guess, for lack of a better term, is incredible. So let's go back to my original question. Sorry, let's talk about your father and your relationship and what it was like to try to convince him to do something differently and come up with a new name and a new menu.
Yeah, I mean, it was the relationship was good. It was good for for most of the time, and at the time I wasn't like it's only been recently that I started wanting to have a little more input. I remember back when I got started, and even back to maybe like a year and a half ago, I just kind of went along. I just kind of went along and followed his guide, and everything was good. But like you say, it was always him or we participated in a lot of like events, doing catering and like massive concerts and stuff like that. And I felt and that's kind of one of the first things where we started to have different opinions or different views, where I wanted to cater to kind of my generation who appreciates and gives value to the culture and to the like the original way of making it, but they also want to try newer things. They also have the desire to try newer things, and he was more set on, no, this is the way it's served, this is the way it's always been made, and that's how we're going to serve it. And I have and I'm still in the process of developing some of these, but like I have the one of the things I'm working on right now is a lobster torta ahogada, and instead of dipping it, like I say, in the it's a tomato sauce that we dip it in, dipping it in like a tomato lobster bisque. So the concept remains the same. It's just the ingredients are different, and you're I know here in LA there's a lot of people that don't eat pork, and so the original torta ahogada is made out of pork, and if you don't provide us like another option, or maybe like a vegan option for them, that's like a segment of customers that you're losing out on because you don't have options. Like, and that's the point where I'm at right now. Like, okay, you want the original, here it is, but we also have these options that are the same concept. We use some of the same ingredients, but we adapt it to different needs, and try to get new flavors, new flavors added to the menu. Try to get new customers, try to grow, I mean, there's so many things that go into trying new stuff. Like I say, maybe sometimes they don't work, maybe they do, but I mean, you have and that's something I always say, is just put yourself out there and let people decide.
So let's go through your whole menu. I'm just interested, all the things you're doing on your menu, like how you created them or added your flair to them. I mean, as much detail as you want to give or not give. I'm just curious because I think there's a lot there, and I think what you're doing is no different than P.F. Chang's did with Chinese food. I think we represent our culture well and our backgrounds well, but we have to make it palatable and delivered in a way that has a greater appeal. And I think that happens with all foods that come into the United States. There's something we do to it to make it almost better, but not because it's going away from tradition, but give it a flair that it's much needed that's not there in tradition. So will you talk about that a little bit? What's your menu? What are your best items? What are your number one sellers, etc.?
Yeah. So our number one seller again is the torta ahogada. That's really what our menu is based off of, and what the concept is based off of. But after that, we have what we call our tacos de canasta, which if you the literal translation is basket tacos, and this is something that here, okay, in the restaurant is super popular, but we also have my wife and I have a side business which is called the Basket Taco Company, and that one we We do a lot of like pop-ups, farmers markets here in LA. We cater to a lot of like birthday parties, corporate lunches, stuff like that. And the concept of those is it's a taco. It's pre-made, and then they're all packaged into a basket. If anybody's been out to in the streets of Mexico, you might have seen them. Traditionally, they're riding on a bike, and they have a big basket on the back of their bike. So that basket is filled with tacos, and the fillings of the tacos that we have currently are chicharrón, which is pork skin, and then we grind it, and then we cook it with different sauces. We have potatoes, which is it's kind of like a potato puree that we season. And then we have beans, which again it's like a bean puree that we season with some spices and a couple other things. And then we have chorizo with potato. And it's I mean this dish alone you can probably have a whole episode on it because it's so complex. It's so
I love it.
I mean, what I tell people, it is Mexico. It is Mexico because regardless of where in Mexico you are, like I mentioned, the torta ahogada is a really regional dish to the city of Guadalajara. But the taco de canasta, you can be in any part of Mexico and people are gonna know what you're talking about and they're gonna recognize it. Like I say, because of the basket, it's something that you can't miss. You see somebody carrying a basket around, you're like, oh, there they are, tacos de canasta. And I know Netflix did an episode in the Taco Chronicles, talking about just that type of taco, and it's crazy in a basket. So what you do is you have your fillings ready. You heat up the tortilla, you fill it, fold it, and you start setting it in the basket, and then you stack them on top of each other. And then once you're done, I'm talking in one basket we can probably fit up to 700 tacos. You close that basket up and you let it steam up. So it's gonna steam up, and that steam that it lets off is gonna soften the tacos up. So when we serve the taco to the customer, it's super soft. It's super soft, and then we top it with shredded cabbage. And then we do pickled veggies on the side. So the pickled veggies is we do like onions, carrots, jalapeno, and jicama. And then we have two different sauces that accompany it, which is red and green sauce. The red one is a tomato base. It's not spicy at all. It just gives it flavor. And then the green one is gonna be the spicy one if you want that kick. But I mean it's crazy. As much as the torta ahogada is our staple, I think the taco de canasta has opened up doors that we could have never imagined. We did like a Teleton for Univision, which is a Spanish broadcasting station. We even did a fundraiser for back at that time. Hillary Clinton was running for president, and they had us cater one of her fundraising events. And it was funny because it was us, it was a barbecue guy, I forget his name, and it was one other like a pastry chef. So that's one of the times when we were like, whoa, like okay, here we are catering a candidate for the presidency, and it's just our tacos are little. I say little, but I mean that's just it's crazy. It's crazy the doors that's opened for us. And like I say, that's I mean I have no words to express.
I love this. I really love this because I think that what you've done in your passion, like I can feel your excitement. I can feel the positive energy coming out of you and the love you have for it, which spills into your food, right? I think that that's such a major part of this. I think that it spills into your food. It's really good. The customers are coming back. There's, geez, I don't even know, the yumminess that I can feel just by your description. And so I think that there's all part of what's going on here, and I think that it's so cool what you're doing. And I think that one of the things that you're able to do truly is capture like this flair or fusion of food that's going on, where you're able to add modern things and upgrade it a little bit. Not that still Mexicans wouldn't enjoy it, but also so that Mexicans do and Mexican Americans enjoy it, but or Americans in general have a palate for it and want to order it.
We really have to find a balance. Because at the point we're at now is we have a pretty extensive customer base that recognizes us for the traditions, for being authentic, but we're trying to grow into a different customer base that maybe isn't too familiar, or that maybe is looking for something different. So we have to kind of make a balancing act between keeping our current customers happy, but trying to make new ones too at the same time.
I love this. Let's change directions here a little bit. Growing up, you mentioned sports and the NBA and your love for that. You also mentioned your family and the food business. Like who are the mentors? Who are the leaders? Who are even maybe the NBA stars that really, for lack of a better term, inspired you, motivated you, mentored you, coached you in a way, maybe not even directly, but just by what they were doing? Could you talk about that a little bit? Because I feel a lot of like positivity and sports-based leadership out of you, even if it's just rubbed off on you. That interest in sports really is coming out in the way it was one of the stepping stones, or it's one of the skills you gained in addition to just going to school and gaining a culinary arts skill, for example.
Well, growing up, I mean, if I had to say one person, I mean, obviously my dad has influenced me the most, just because that's who I started under, and that's who I developed most of my skills, I guess you can call them, or most of my knowledge from. As far as I'm trying to think of like athletes in sports, but
I mean, Kobe Bryant, I mean, come on. That's where I was thinking we might go here. I mean, you're a guy from LA, like the NBA. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know, like, if your influence, you like sports. I just didn't know if there was impact on you, or these athletes that became superstars, if that influenced you in any way.
I mean, as far as their work ethic, but I've never been like, I enjoy sports. I enjoy sports, but I never looked to sports as I guess if I were to mention like people that I look up, and this is more now that I'm in the business and stuff. Like there's a Mexican chef. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Enrique Olvera. He has his most famous restaurant is in Mexico City. It's called Pujol. And it's been featured in like San Pellegrino's top 50. I think it peaked at number 3 at one point. He opened up a second location in New York City called Cosme, which is garnering a lot of attention. And he just recently opened up here in LA. It's called Damian. So that's one of the people that I look up into in the food industry. Because of what he's managed to do, he took Mexican food from being like a mom and pop kind of home cooking, tradition based, and he made it into this fine dining, world renowned, world recognized cuisine. And it's crazy because you see some of it, like his staple dish, his main thing is a mole, and it's just a mole. It's just a sauce. So he it's like 1,000. I think right now it's probably at like 1,200 days old mole, and he mixes that with the batch of new freshly made mole, and he puts them together, and that's the dish. It's just a plate with 2 sauces on it, and to see see what he's managed to achieve, and again the recognition he has, and where he's put or where he's elevated Mexican cuisine to. It's something that I hope I can achieve someday in the future, is to have that our Guadalajara style food be looked at in that manner. And again, it's just, I mean, the work ethic and following his path. I mean, he went to the Culinary Institute of America in New York City. He had a stint here in Napa at the French Laundry. He had a stint in Noma in Copenhagen. So he's been all over the place, and that's something that, like I say, I mean, I see what he's done, and it inspires me, and it kind of drives me to try to make it happen for our food.
I love this. So, I mean, where are you hoping this goes? Your restaurant that you have now, you have one, you're building this menu, you're starting to build business. Like, where are you hoping this goes?
Well, my next step, and hopefully I can get it soon. Like I say, right now we're doing a lot of pop-ups, like farmers markets and stuff. So I want to look into getting a food truck, so that I can serve different areas of the city, because the LA is immense. It's, I mean, from one side of the city to the other, and it's funny because here in Linwood we're kind of in the middle of everything, and we get people from all over LA. It's like, and they tell me about it, like on weekends. I made the drive from Santa Ana, or I made the drive from Paramount City, or I made the drive from, and I mean, you're talking about with traffic, hour and a half drives. So right now I feel the need to kind of cater to those people, and maybe a food truck would be the best first step in trying to have it set up at different locations on different days, and kind of work a schedule out that way. But eventually, I mean, I want to grow it. I want to grow it. Have a couple locations here in the area. I lived in Phoenix. I grew up in Phoenix. So that's something I've always wanted to do, is go back and open up a restaurant there. Not sure if it would be the same concept or if I would work on something new, but I definitely want to make my way back over there. And eventually have a fine dining. Like, my end goal is a fine dining, sit down, Michelin star level restaurant. But always having it tied to our traditions and our cuisine.
I love this a lot, and I think you're 100% spot on this. Interestingly, because I think that you're right on the right path, and I think that the dreams that you have and the product that you have is just so outstanding and so cool. Let's talk about delivery service. Do you guys use delivery service? Do you mess with the DoorDashes, the Chow Nows of the world? Like, how have you viewed all of that as part of your business and maintaining the quality of your product, the delivery boom?
We do. We work with, can I say the names, or? Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, we work with, we have DoorDash, we have Uber Eats, and we have Grubhub, and we're working through our POS to have like our own, not our own, because it's not our software or anything, but it's orders that are going to go directly through us. So that's what we do right now. Our customer base right now is again, it's like older, not older people, but it's more how do you say it? They're not as savvy with technology, so it's helping, the delivery service is helping us reach newer customers. Newer customers that are unfamiliar with our type of cuisine, that are not that have never tried it, and they go on the the app, on the Grubhub, on the DoorDash, Uber app, and they look for Mexican food, and they see there's a lot of burritos, there's a lot of just your regular tacos and stuff like that, and then they see torta ahogada, or they see taco de canasta, or they see carne en su jugo, which is another one of our dishes, and a lot of times it piques their interest and they order, and that's helped us make new customers.
I love this. I love and have you like tell me about your experience with it. Like, tell me about your. I mean, have you had to adjust your food? Have you had to adjust your packaging? I mean, what has that been like for you, especially as you changed your menu? Has there been anything like that, or ways you've like, oh my gosh, I'm in the food business. Why do I have to adjust these things? Is there anything that's really caught your attention in that way?
Oh yeah. The food packaging, especially the food pack. I remember when we first started doing the delivery services, a couple of the orders. I mean, I'm not sure if it's the drivers or if we packaged it wrong, or what the case may be. But a couple of times when the food got to the customer, it was pretty much a scramble. It was pretty much a scramble. We got pictures of it. We had to redo it and resend it out. But it led us to talk to the packaging companies to make the like the torta ahogada is again is a dip sandwich. So if we dip the sandwich when they order it, by the time it gets to them, it's gonna be completely soggy. So we had to put the sauce in cups, and then kind of explain to the people that when they get it, they have to either dip it or pour the sauce over it. Just stuff like that where our food wasn't originally designed or made to be delivered, but we had to adapt to make it be delivered, because again, last thing you want as an owner is to lose out on business because you didn't change something, or because you were unwilling to adapt, you know.
Yeah, I love this. Because it is so true. I think that if you don't look at it, like, your product's great, it's great for pickup, it's great for dine-in, but a lot of people don't realize, like, there's a whole other thing that you can really do well by your packaging, and make sure that you deliver it well. The drivers who aren't a part of your business, you're partnering with them to do the work, and I think everyone needs to look at them as partners, but you want to set them up to succeed, because if you don't, it doesn't go very well for anyone. So I think that that's part of what we're talking about here. The other part is, I think that what you're doing and your inspiration and the way you look at things, growing up in food, starting with a food truck with your dad and the restaurants with your dad, and not necessarily getting into the culinary side first, having the other aspects of the business that were there, and then deciding to go to the culinary arts, you sort of got well-rounded in your abilities. And I just want to compliment you on that, because you've unintentionally or intentionally stacked skills that have led to where you are, and I think that's awesome as well. So
yeah, and it was funny, because when I made the decision, and when I talked to not that I asked them for their opinion or anything, but when I started mentioning that I was going to go to school and stuff, I got a lot of pushback from people in the industry, as far as cooks that my dad already had and stuff like that, where they were saying, oh, what do you want to do that for? You already know. And but there's so much more that goes into it. Again, like I say, even growing up, before I ever got into it, seeing all the preparation that goes into it. But one of the things that school helped me with the most was the organization and finance of the business, costing out your recipes, pricing your menu to where you're making a profit, your labor, like what percentage of your sales has to go to labor, what percentage of your sales has to go to marketing, all of that is something that I don't think I ever would have learned if I hadn't gone to school, because my dad was self-taught, and he had his way of doing things, but it was never, like, I don't want to say it was unorganized or disorganized, but it was It was just kind of based off his numbers, and what he thought was correct. And with the knowledge I have now, I go into it with that much more knowledge, and I can like pie chart it out and say, okay, today's sales were, I don't know, to make a nice even a nice round number, today's sales were 1,000, and okay, so I don't know, 2% is going to go towards rent, 1% is going to go to utilities, 20% is going to go to labor, 20% is going to be in the cost of goods. You know what I mean? So it was at the time when people would have that pushback, and they, oh, well, what are you gonna go waste time in school for? You don't need it. You already know how to cook, and you already have a business. What? I mean, there was times where I was like, am I really, like, should I do it? But at the end of the day, it was the best decision I could have made, because, like I say, it gave me tools to manage the business in a more organized and professional way, I guess you can call it.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to have you back on the podcast in a few months to continue to tell this story, because you've just transitioned your restaurant to the new menu and the new name, and I'm really blown away, and I think your trajectory and your momentum is ridiculous, and I just can't wait to see it. So as we start to end things, Abe, is there anything like you'd want to share with other entrepreneurs, other chefs, other people trying to get into the food business that maybe you wish you knew then that you knew now back in the day? Or is there anything that you feel that you're still learning or you wish you knew that you could help the audience with?
Just be prepared to work. As far as cooking and ideas go, I always tell people, just put them out there. Like every new item that I think about integrating into the menu, I have a group of like foodies, I guess you can call, or food influencers here in the area, that I always call. I say, hey guys, I'm trying out this new thing. Come try it out and let me know what you think. And just be open to what they think, because at the end of the day, most of the time when I cook something, I cook it to my liking. So I always think it's good and it's gonna sell. But then I let other people try it, and they give me their input and their feedback, and that's kind of the process that I go through to integrate new menu items. So just be out there. Trust in your instinct. Make it. Have people try it. Be open, and that's one advice I can give them. As far as like something somebody would have told me, I mean, that there's ups and downs. That you have to be. Like I say, you have to be willing to adapt. You always have to. You always have to be aware of what's going on. And when I say what's going on, there's thousands of things that impact your business. Thousands, whether it be, politics, recession, the mood, like it's crazy here in LA. when going back to sports, when the Lakers are doing good, people are a lot happier. When the Dodgers are doing good, people are a lot happier, and they're willing to spend more. And it's crazy, because you wouldn't think that has an effect on your business, but it does. It does. Just like the mood of the city. If there's special events going on in the city, you have a lot more tourism, so your business might go up. So just be aware, be as connected as you can to your customers. Use social media. Social media is the platform and a tool that will help you go a long way. I guess that's it. And to this day, I think the most important part is that last thing that we were talking about, is the finances. The finances. You as a chef, as a cook, sometimes you say, oh, I just want to cook. I don't want to be in charge. And if that's the case, have somebody to help you with the finances, because you have to make the finances work. Otherwise, the business is not going to work. It's not going to work. And it's for me, it's the most important part of it, because, like I say, I mean, we all love cooking. We all love having people try our food. We all love putting our ideas out there. But at the end of the day, it has to be profitable, or else we can't do it.
I agree with you. I'm going to ask one more question just because I have it now that you answer. Like, what are your favorite things to do? Obviously, everyone loves cooking. What are your favorite things to do as a business owner or entrepreneur, and what are your least favorite things to do?
My favorite thing is cooking new dishes and trying to see if they pop or not. That's the favorite. That's my favorite is trying to cook different things, um, and being in the kitchen overall. And my least favorite is having to make decisions that are going to affect other people. As far as like layoffs go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is the worst, I have to say.
Yeah.
Even if they've made the decision for you and aren't doing their
Exactly.
job or not living up to the core values of your business, it's still at the end of the day the hardest thing to do. I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abe.
Especially if it's somebody that's been with you
Yeah.
for a long time. You kind of grow an attachment to them, and it's always hard. But like I said previously, you have to look at it as to where, I mean, it's a business and it has to be profitable for you, or else it won't exist.
I agree with this 100% a lot because often, like, some of our best employees and loyal employees, sometimes they just become entitled, or their attitude changes, or they become what I'll call crabs in the crab bucket, where new people come in and maybe they're outperforming them, or they're really getting the thing, and even though they don't want to be a manager, they don't want this other person who wants to be a manager to rise up above them, or a younger person to rise up above them. Or some cases it can even be you didn't realize that they don't want a woman to rise above them, or it could be 1,000 different things. But I often find that, yes, it's so hard because they've been loyal for so long, but if they start they get entitled, or their loyalty becomes loyalty only if they get something more in return, it becomes very hard, and they can tear down your organization. But man, I don't even know, because they become part of your family, they become part of your home. And I think a lot of employees, I would say in entrepreneurs or in businesses that aren't run well, just because of this main fact, they could have the best business, everything, all the process procedures could be great, but their culture starts to rot a little bit because they can't do the thing that no one wants to do, which is lay off people, particularly, or fire them, particularly the ones that have been there so long. But I will say, generally, the longer employees have been there, it takes a special kind of employee with a real long-term vision and a focus on their family legacy and being a leader and, making the best out of every day to really excel over the long run in any business. Because sometimes, like I said, the longer they're there, it leads to entitlement. It can also lead to resentments building up. It can also lead to not wanting other people to do better in the business than they are, even though they don't want to move beyond their position. So I really like that you said that. So, Abe, where can they find you online? Where are you on Instagram, and where's your restaurant located?
So the location, we're in the Los Angeles area in the city of Linwood. We're inside a popular plaza here in Linwood called Plaza Mexico. On Instagram, it's at Las Ahogadas LA. So LA Ahogadas LA. And on TikTok, I think my wife started a TikTok too, and it's same Las Ahogadas LA. If you look us up on like Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, we're on all the platforms. That's basically it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. These podcasts keep getting better. Every time I do a new one, I'm getting better at them. Obviously, I'm over 300 in at this point. Like, I think we've recorded 350. You're number 316, and I'm filling gaps. But we've recorded over 350 episodes so far as they're being released out. But this is an incredible episode, and I love what you're doing with the sourdough and the sandwiches. And I'm gonna be out in LA in May.
If I can give a
go ahead.
So the sourdough we it's not something that I make in house. I actually have it sourced by a local bakery called Gusto Bread. If I can shout them out.
Yeah, shout them out.
Their bread is amazing. They're in the city of Long Beach.
It was called Gusto Bread.
Gusto bread. Yeah, yeah. If anybody looks them up, I mean, they've had articles written on them in like the New York Times, and I mean, they're super popular here in the area, and yeah, like I said, their bread is amazing.
I will put them in the episode notes for everyone, just so everyone has them, because I love this. I love that you share and give a shout out to your partners, because I think it's important. And also, when I'm out there, like I'll be in Pasadena and I have to be in Los Angeles in May, and I'll just drop it with the audience. We are in the development of a TV show based sort of loosely around what we've done with the podcast. This one in particular, and my other ones, where it's 18 seasons over 12 years, average 16 episodes per season, and we're going around the world over these 18 seasons over 12 years, which is we're releasing 3 seasons every 2 years, and we are preparing to work with some of these major studios. We have a little bit of a situation going on here where we have more than one interest, which is great, but we're going to go around the world to all sorts of cities and meet entrepreneurs. I'll still continue to do the podcast, but we're also going to do a TV show where I have 2 co-hosts with me. I'm not the main host. I am one of the co-hosts, and sort of do this, and it's kind of cool, the group that's been put together to do this. It's a dream come true. I never knew a podcast, or like, I'm probably the hardest podcaster on the planet other than Joe Rogan. He releases a lot, but I literally release 3 to 4 podcasts for this, Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. I released at least 2 a week for the Centurion Leadership Battalion. We're going to do 1 to 2 a week for the Night Dashor with Justin Bizzarro show, one. And we're also launching the Justin Ryan Bizzarro show, which is to take care of, like, I have tons of entrepreneurs and tons of musicians and tons of athletes that have taken interest in Justin the Food Entrepreneur show, but I don't want to dilute this show from the Food Entrepreneurs, so we've created the Justin Ryan Bizzarro show, which is almost like weirdly Mary Tyler Moore show meets the Johnny Carson show, or whatever you guys want to call it, because it's not only like, are we doing interviews, but it's also a reflection of culture of the time, what it's like to be me, Justin Bizzarro, in the modern world, in life no different than Mary Tyler Moore. I'm not a woman, but this is sort of where we're going to reflect on culture, and we're going to be, but it's going to be real. It's not going to be portrayed, and it's going to be in the moment. So I love it, and this has all led to this TV show, which everyone will drop it, and you can follow us on Instagram as we start building up there. It's called Foodtopia TV is the Instagram, but the show will be Foodtopia Eat, Love, Learn. And again, we're going to cover all 7 continents very thoroughly over 18 seasons, and it's quite incredible. And with this podcast, I've been able to connect with entrepreneurs all over the world, whether you hear them on here or not. I actually build relationships and talk to a lot of entrepreneurs also who don't end up coming on the show, or they're too scared to come on the show, or they're not ready to yet, all over the world, okay? And it's interesting because as I keep talking to them, some of them eventually trickle in, and that's not why I do it. I actually build relationships, and then they get trusted. They're like, oh, you remember that thing we were talking about like 9 months ago when you first talked to me? I'm like, yeah, you want to be on this show? They're like, I think I have the courage now. So I think that that's a great thing, but it does take courage. And I will say the ability to do podcasts, the ability to speak about your businesses, the ability to be on TV or on audio like these, or on video on Instagram and about your businesses, it's huge, and you need to work on it. It's a skill. I was a shy kid. I was a shy entrepreneur. I stayed behind the numbers. I talked to the employees, but not really. It really took me the last 7-9 years to start creeping out of that shell, to be able to talk to the employees, even when people would cut me down for doing it. Like people that I didn't realize that as you succeed, they try to knock you back down, and they're usually employees or coworkers or co-entrepreneurs or partners who have grown up with you. But when you make distance all the time, like we talked about, people try to knock you down or tear you down. Yeah. I don't know why, because they don't want to do the work themselves, so they try to knock you down to their level. But it's important because there's all sorts of ways that we can gain experience in this sort of being our publicist or being our spokesman or running our social media that is important in building relationships as entrepreneurs. So I just want to anchor that for everyone also, that it is important that you do these shows, not only for me, but for others. And it is important you use your Instagram and your TikTok and your Facebook and your LinkedIn and whatever else. I don't use Snapchat because I still can't understand it for some reason, how it drives value, and it's not just a complete waste of time. And Twitter actually is a good source, but I think anything that can give videos that can show actual what you're doing with your food is incredible, because you want to be able to give people all the sensations, the eyes, the ears, the whatever it is, without the touch and the taste, as much of those as possible. So I think that that's what you can do, and you can do emotional attachment. Like, people are like, oh my gosh, I remember when I had those as a kid. This is kind of like that. I want to go get those. And I think that's important. And if you do it properly, it's not advertising and marketing, it's promotion. And what we're talking about, it's attraction versus promotion. Okay, where marketing and advertising tends to be promotion, trying to promote it. You're not really gaining the long-term loyalty by just promoting something. It's that attraction, and I'll give McDonald's as an example. They have a lot of things that attract people to their business: the speed, the deals, the quality of the food being always the same, all the characters that represent their brand. They didn't just go with a Wendy and a Dave. They went with like every character you could imagine, and one of those characters appeals to each individual. So, and I'm not saying you need characters for your business or mascots in the audience, but it is something to think about. The cereal companies have them. Kellogg's has how many mascots that represent how many cereals. So when we tie these things, and we tie these things to children or Happy Meals and things like that, they matter. And it's not a gimmick, it's a attraction. Now, I want what they have. I want that. It's either scarce, maybe, or it's really good, or again, it's something we had as a kid, and we're attracting people based off our videos and our reels to come get it. Maybe it's the biggest sandwich they've ever seen. I see some of those gimmicks. It's a little more gimmicky for me, but if it's something that's cool and new and innovative, like the pizza bagel that Utopia Bagels did, that's a cool idea, and it attracted a lot of people to want to try it. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. It wasn't really promotion. It wasn't really advertising or marketing. They just did it, and it attracted people. It sounds good, right? Bagel material being used for a pizza. So bagel dough for a pizza dough in exchange. Just no different than we're seeing sourdough pizza and what we're talking about here, which is a tradition from Guadalajara, which is the sourdough sub roll, basically, with a sandwich with all that Mexican flair and Guadalajaran flair. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, Abe. Interesting, like a really good friend I had in 7th grade. I moved schools when I was in 7th grade to go to all-boys school because of my soccer and my schedule, and that's when I spent a lot more time on my dad's office as well, because it was 25 minutes from my family farm. Is one of my best friends going into that. He was an exchange student, but also because he was new. His name was Guillermo Watanabe. And interesting, there are some Japanese Mexican influences down in parts of Mexico as well. It's not only the United States, Japanese Americans, there's Japanese Mexicans as well. So Watanabe was the Japanese side, his father, but his mother was Guadalajaran, and he was from Guadalajara. And I just remember all the candy that they would bring in all the time, which was just so awesome. And then, the family that he lived with and was exchanged with, they would try the food from there and try to make the food for this individual. So that was to feel at home. So it was always kind of a cool experience when he'd bring some of that into school. And while it wasn't exactly the same that his mom cooked, it gave me an understanding that not all Mexican food is the same. It's like the United States. There are different regions in Mexico that have different appeal. And like the Baja, which is off of California, it's called the Baja California, but it's not California the state, has different food than Guadalajara, which has different food than Mexico City, for example, although Mexico City seems to be a combination of things. But you go to the beach towns, and there's a lot of these restaurants we get as American tourists, and we get the food, but it's not. We've got to look at what the diversity is. It's not just blanket Mexican food, just like it's not blanket American food. So I just wanted to anchor that. So thank you again, Abe. One more time, will you tell us where they can find you online, social media, and what your address is?
The address is 3100 East Imperial Highway, and that's in the city of Linwood, zip code 90262. And on social media, it's at Las Ahogadas LA. So Las Ahogadas LA. That's Instagram, Facebook, like I said, TikTok. I think my wife started TikTok.
So I'm going to spell it for everyone. That's LAS Ahogadasla. Correct?
LA. Uh-huh.
Cool.
Exactly.
So that's where you can find on Instagram. It'll be in the notes, guys. I'll also going to put Gusto Bread in there so everyone has that link as well, where the sourdough sub rolls are coming from. And with that being said, thank you everyone for listening in. Again, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. You can also find us on Spotify or wherever you grow yourself through podcasts. And if you're in the LA area and you have DoorDash or one of the other delivery apps, I suggest ordering from Las Ahogadas, because you want to try these subs and you want to go to the store. I know I'm going to go there when I'm in LA, working on this TV show stuff. My stepkids, my stepdaughter Zoe, and her fiance John Wood, Zoe Warren. Everyone look her up at Zoe P Warren and at John Wood 32 on Instagram. I'll put them in here also. But since I'm going out to LA, I'll drop their names, since they are CrossFit professional athletes and they are trying to qualify as individuals for the CrossFit Games this year. They've been to the CrossFit Games as a team, and they've done a lot of trying to qualify in the regionals to get to the games as individuals. This year, I think they're going to make it. I think that they have the right mental capacity and they have the right sports capacity. So I will be out there working on the development of this TV show that I'm talking about, that hopefully we'll start filming in October. And we'll also be out there in Pasadena for the West Coast Games for the CrossFit regionals to qualify for the CrossFit Games in Madison, Wisconsin. So I did a lot of dropping names in there, and I'll drop all of it in the notes. But I'm going to come see you guys when I'm out there. That's my whole point. I dropped a lot of drops in because I want to try one of these sandwiches. So, Abe, I really appreciate you and your time. And everyone in the audience, again, I appreciate you guys sharing everything. Please, if you hear this episode, you're a fan of Abe's and his restaurant, please give us 5 stars. Please give us good reviews on our show and on their episode. It helps immensely to get the word out there. So thank you, everyone, for listening in, and we are out.